Hey, it's Danny.
And Liv. We're the Magic Scouts, and
We're going to take you along on our latest trip
to Walt Disney World for Mickey's not-so-scary Halloween party. Day one started out a bit chaotic. We landed around 1:30 p.m. in Orlando, eager to get to our hotel because we had a reservation at Mickey's not-so-scary, but maybe a little scary, Halloween party later that night. We were pretty hungry, so we grabbed some pretzel bites and a smoothie at the airport and then got in our Uber to make our way over to Disney's All-Star Movies Resort. This is a value resort, meaning it's one of Disney's lowest price hotels. The All-Star resorts are part of one giant campus, but each has their own amenities, which are all pretty similar, such as multiple pool areas and a giant food court. We were in a standard room, and this was actually our first time adding the quick service Disney dining plan to our hotel package. So we immediately headed straight to the food court to get our refillable mugs included in the dining package. These puppies allowed us unlimited refills at the soda fountain at any Disney resort, so needless to say, we had a little bit too much pop over our trip. After grabbing our beverage of choice, we quickly got into our costumes for the Halloween party, which is one of the few times guests over 14 can wear costumes at Disney. Danny and I dressed up as Mary Blair in her artwork, and Danny handmade this incredible easel, which held multiple Mary Blair animations. Of course, as soon as we started making our way over to the shuttle for Magic Kingdom, it started raining. I'm pretty sure it rained every day of our trip, so this was just getting us prepared for what was about to be a very wet 5 days. Although we were all frizzy, frazzled, and soaked, a couple people still recognized our costume on the MK ferry, so that was just the confidence boost we needed as we approached the park. This was both Danny and I's first time attending Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party, and I tried not to do too much advanced research so that it could all be a surprise, so I really had no idea what to expect. The anticipation was building as we got closer and closer, seeing that beautiful castle in the distance, and soon enough, we were in. We got there a bit before the official start of the party so that Danny and I could get some photos and videos in our costumes. Our plan was to get a video in front of the Disney attractions that Mary Blair had a part in, and these aligned with the art in Danny's easel. So this included Cinderella's Castle, the Alice in Wonderland Mad Tea Party ride, It's a Small World, and Peter Pan's Flight. We successfully shot what we had intended, and then it was time to party. Upon picking up our wristbands, we were given these super cute trick-or-treat bags. I have to say, my favorite part of the evening was definitely the trick-or-treating. It brought me right back to being a kid again. There were all these trick-or-treating stations scattered throughout the park, and like I said, I hadn't done much research before, so my mind was blown when Danny told me we could go up to them and get more candy as many times as we wanted. With all that trick-or-treating, we quickly worked up an appetite and ended up at Pecos Bill Tall Tale Inn and Cafe for our very first meal on the dining plan. After dinner, we decided to walk around, take in the decor, and catch some of the incredible street entertainment exclusive to the event. Happy Halloween. These guys were my favorite. Another perk of the Halloween party is the low wait times for rides, which we definitely took advantage of. Most of the rides were open, including Tron and Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which both had standby lines available. Some of the attractions were even themed for the event, like the Mad Tea Party ride. By this point, Danny and I were ready to just chill for a sec, so we plopped ourselves down and waited for the second showing of Mickey's Boo to You Parade.
Happy Halloween!
The tune for this one is catchy, but maybe not as catchy as Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas Time Parade, which, might be a good thing depending on how you look at it, because I had that song stuck in my head until July. The highlight of the parade for me was the Haunted Mansion float and all the villain appearances. Overall, we had an amazing time and would definitely do Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party again. We capped the night off with one more show, Hocus Pocus Villain Spelltacular, featuring my girls, the Sanderson sisters. And of course, we had to get a bit more trick-or-treating in before calling it a night and heading back to the hotel. There was truly no better feeling than getting out of those costumes, taking a shower, and crawling into bed.
This is what Magic Scout Liv is going to look like for the rest of the trip. Okay, good night?
Good night.
Good night.
Ow!
Good morning from All-Star Movies and a hot cup of Joffrey's in our refillable mugs. We got the quick service dining plan for this trip for $57 per person per day. You get 2 meals, 2 drinks, 1 snack, and 1 resort mug for the duration of your stay. The mug really is a nice bonus. I'm imagining coffee every morning and hot chocolate at night. We had a bit of a rough start this morning because we were out so late at Mickey's Not So Scary yesterday, but we're still rising and grinding to Disney's Animal Kingdom. We decided to try out the multi-pass today with the goal of familiarizing ourselves with the system and getting in as many big ticket rides as we could. Not sure if you guys have purchased a multi-pass yet, but if you're a newbie, I would say there are two main things to keep in mind. Number one is that you can have 3 ride reservations at any given time. And number 2 is that as soon as you scan into your first ride, you can actually start making reservations at any park, not just the park you purchased at. When we bought our Animal Kingdom multi-pass, we scheduled Dinosaur, Kilimanjaro Safaris, and Navi River Journey in quick succession. Liv said she was game for whatever as long as she got some FaceTime in with her favorite dinos, as time is ticking away. As we scanned into each of our original Animal Kingdom bookings, we made sure to immediately reserve higher profile rides at other parks, starting with Remy's at Epcot for around 7 p.m. and then Runaway Railway at Hollywood Studios at around 2 p.m. Even though it was still early in the morning, we knew that as the day crept on, we'd have less and less options to choose from, so booking in as quickly as possible is actually critical to optimize the day. Though I didn't actually say it out loud, my quiet goal was to get through all 4 parks in one day, something that we've never done before. Realistically, our trips are usually centered around shooting a short film, which we're not doing this trip, so today kind of seemed like the perfect opportunity to test our limits and see how much we could actually accomplish. After finishing Navi River Journey, we noticed that the standby line for Flight of Passage was only 60 minutes. We decided to grab a quick lunch at Tatuli Canteen and then reassess our desire to get in line. We redeemed our quick service meal credits for an Ocean Moon Bowl and a chili spice fried tofu bowl. The latter probably wouldn't be something that I would order again, but all things considered, this is still one of our favorite places to get a quick service meal in all of Disney World. By the time we finished eating, the day was still young and the wait time for Flight of Passage was actually lower at 50 minutes. We had a few hours to kill before having to head over to Hollywood Studios for our next lightning lane, so we decided to jump in line. It was here when things started to take a not so good turn for me. I'm prone to migraines in general, but the September humidity in Orlando, the late night at the Halloween party, and the general overstimulation from having too good of a multi-pass strategy ended up being the perfect concoction for a migraine. Classic. I ended up opting out of Flight of Passage, and I checked myself into first aid instead. Judging from this footage, it seems that Liv had a fun time in my absence, eating ice cream and watching bugs as I suffered, but at least she came to pick me up bearing gifts, aka fries. Usually a nap and some fried potatoes would be enough to revive me, but at this point it was only 1 p.m., so for the sake of our big day ahead, we decided to move our multi-pass reservations back a few hours and go back to the hotel to rest up so we could get back on track. Fast forward a few hours and we're ready to hit the parks again. This trip was our 4th together as the Magic Scouts, but we've never taken a hotel break before. The unspoken expectation is that when we're at Disney World, we stay locked in, spending every waking hour at the parks. On average, we're doing around 20,000 steps a day. And as noted by Liv, who on our way to the bus stop exclaimed, "Wow, I can really tell how sore my legs are after having that little laydown." Still, with a pep in our step, we carried on to Hollywood Studios, making our way down the boulevard with not a care in the world. This day really turned itself around, Liv and I happily declared to each other over sandwiches at Woody's lunchbox. Can you imagine that just a few hours ago we were questioning if we'd ever be able to make it back to the parks today? I know, I agreed. My finger was hovering over the Haunted Mansion lightning lane at this point. Then, I said it. Hey Liv, should we try and do all 4 parks today? And without a pause, Liv exclaimed, "Let's do it!" Because of our setback earlier in the afternoon, our multi-pass ride count was only 3, which would simply just not do. First up was our Runaway Railway lightning lane that we originally booked for 1 p.m. Even though it was almost 5 p.m. at this point, this ride still brought us so much joy, and to be honest, being able to just walk on made the multi-pass seem worth it. Complete and utter joy. No migraine in sight. Optimism for the rest of the day. We headed back to Toy Story Land to do Toy Story Mania and Alien Twirling Saucers, which is actually way more fun than I remembered. Being hurled around with aliens was very energizing, and this actually might have to go on my must-ride list anytime we're at Hollywood Studios. Okay, quick disclaimer before I continue. Our enthusiasm and lust for life was pretty short-lived. Things were feeling really good for a while. We even jumped on the Skyliner to head to Epcot for our Remy's Lightning Lane without a hitch. Overall, we were feeling super optimistic that our 4-park plan was halfway to becoming a reality. But then, things started to go downhill. Again, firstly and most critically, it started to pour rain pretty much as soon as we entered the park.
I do not like this. I do not like this at all. Look at the ground.
This is nuts.
Jaws agape, we watched the sky darken as a looming rain cloud moved towards us like a cartoon. Within seconds, our hair was frizzy and our shoes and socks were squeaking with water. Secondly, while running through the aforementioned rain towards Remy's, Liv exclaimed, "Ow! Something feels weird in my legs." To be honest, I was so concerned about being completely soaking wet that I didn't really think much of this. But if you're still watching, please remember this moment, because it foreshadows what happens later. After a certain point of unsuccessfully using an umbrella, you really just have to accept the hand that you've been dealt. This is your fate. This is your reality. You are meant to be soaking wet. So, we grabbed our 3D glasses and went to go adventure through the kitchen with Remy. I wish this story ended with, "and then we remained damp for the rest of the night." But the longest day ever somehow keeps on going and the rain doesn't stop. By the time we make it to the monorail to head to Magic Kingdom, Liv's mobility was rapidly declining. Between limps, she remained adamant that we continue the journey to Haunted Mansion to finish what we started. I was a bit skeptical, but I obliged. Even in the rain, Magic Kingdom at night is so beautiful. And as we made our way to scan into Haunted Mansion, we couldn't help but feel how lucky we are to be able to keep visiting this magical place together over and over and over again. Scanning into Haunted Mansion meant that we successfully used our $15 multi-pass at all 4 parks. Nobody asked for this, but we still celebrated this small victory, even though our PhotoPass picture doesn't really look like we did.
We did it!
Well, we ended the day with a nightcap at First Aid. This means that along with doing 4 parks, we also visited 2 first aids for 2 separate injuries. Somehow, through all the exhaustion, we remained optimistic for the rest of our trip. That is, until we woke in the morning to an alarming surprise.
Day 3. Where do I begin? I woke up that morning and I could barely walk. All the walking we did the day before, combined with the shoes I decided to wear for my Halloween costume, resulted in shin splints. Or at least that's what I think it was according to Google. Danny and I debated cutting our trip short or at least taking the day off, but Danny reassured me that she was down to push me in a wheelchair all day so that I could recover, and so that's what we did. It ended up being a really fun day at Epcot, at least for me. By the time we had decided what to do and got into the park, it was already lunchtime, so we started out at Connections Eatery. Once again, we used our dining plans. Danny got the General Tso chicken salad, and I got the house-made black bean burger. After lunch, we quickly hopped on Spaceship Earth because the wait was only 10 minutes. As a communications major, this ride just holds a special place in my heart, and I will never get tired of it. My favorite scenes on the ride are probably the little movie theater and the family sitting around the TV. The quiz at the end, though, it's fun, but it always butchers the photos. Like, Danny got absolutely annihilated this time. When we got out of Spaceship Earth, it started raining again, so we took cover for a bit and then decided it was time for another indoor ride. I think we instinctually picked Frozen because it was so hot and humid. While we were waiting in line, we caught this really sweet surprise moment of Princess Aurora. 50 minutes later, we were on the ride, and this was actually Danny's first time riding it, so that made it even more fun. Once we were out, the rain was done, and it was time for Danny to ride Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, while I sat around and people watched and tended to my shins. Reunited, it was time to eat again, because when is it not time to eat when you're at Disney? Danny was shocked I'd never tried the caramel corn in Germany, so obviously we had to change that. We had a cute little bench moment before exploring more of the World Showcase. For dinner, we thought it would be fun to try something outside of Epcot, so we had a casual push and stroll over to the Beach Club Hotel. That dining plan had us loading up on the soft drinks yet again. We enjoyed our meal overlooking a beautiful courtyard at the hotel, which was really a nice change of pace from navigating Epcot in the rain. Danny got the roasted chicken dinner with mashed potatoes and seasonal vegetables, and I got an absolutely massive caprese sandwich. And of course, a side of clam chowder, which I had to dish out extra for as it wasn't included in the dining plan. So worth it. After our lovely dinner, it was time to get back over to Epcot and get back into the rain. We decided to do yet another indoor activity, opting for our all-time cult favorite ride, Living with the Land, in the Land Pavilion. On this ride, we actually caught a sneaky little glimpse of Mickey in the Garden Grill restaurant, which is visible at the beginning of this ride. A little hidden Mickey, if you will. Never noticed that before. We capped the night off with a great view of Luminous, the Symphony of Us. It was a long, rainy, and one of the most unique days we've had at Disney as the Magic Scouts. And despite the setbacks, we had the best time and couldn't wait for our next day at Magic Kingdom, providing my shins were better.
That's the shot. Yesterday was one for the books, and I'm sure you're dying to know if Liv woke up feeling better. Well, drum roll please. The answer is yes. She walks! Liv's shins felt exponentially better today, meaning the Magic Scouts were back in action, without a wheelchair and a little slower than usual, but still very much ready for a jam-packed day. This miracle came kind of at the perfect time since we had allocated today for a couple of meetups. But first, lunch at Casey's Corner, where my lunch was about 3 times the size of Liv's. A few months ago, we had connected with Jessica and Lewis about collaborating on a very special video. Not only are they amazing creators with such an interesting POV, but they're also some of the nicest people ever. You'll have to wait to see what we cooked up together, but you best believe it's full of friendship, nostalgia, and a little bit of fantasy. After watching the Festival of Fantasy Parade for the 10th time, we headed on some rides, grabbed a couple of snacks, and continued to shoot some cute clips for a collab video. As much as Liv and I love going to the parks together, it really is such a fun dynamic to explore with friends, especially when those friends are as knowledgeable about the parks as Jessica and Lewis. In the few hours we were together, we learned so much, and Liv even got pixie dusted for the first time. After we finished shooting, we said goodbye and then hello to another friend named Kensley. She's a super talented photographer and another Orlando local. Kensley accompanied us on 2 very important and life-altering experiences. The first was visiting the new Country Bears Jamboree, where our minds were so blown we saw it twice. As if the day couldn't get any better, we got lobster rolls at Columbia Harbor House and then jumped into the standby line for Mine Train. By the time we got to the front of the queue, it was 8:59 p.m. With only 1 minute to spare, we jumped on the ride, only to be greeted with happily ever after fireworks right in front of us. We could not stop freaking out about how perfect our timing was. By the time we got off Mine Train, the show was already halfway through, and even though it was drizzling rain at this point, we ran over to Dumbo and got to fly in the sky while watching the rest of the show. We started making content as the Magic Scouts because we wanted an excuse to create and travel together, but meeting like-minded creators has actually been one of the most exciting parts of this channel. Being able to be part of the Disney creator community has been so rewarding, and somehow it's only been a year since we started. We headed back to the hotel feeling super grateful, but to prepare for our last and final day, we decided to take it easy and just relax with our Pooh Bear slippers. Good night, and see you tomorrow.
Normal thing to do after a birthday. The last day of any Disney trip is always a little bittersweet. Thinking about heading back to normal life after days of fun and fried food can feel a little jarring, but as we packed our bags and did our last rounds around All-Star Movies, we couldn't help but feel a little bit excited, and certain we'd likely never book another trip in September. Between the fact that our clothes were either wet with rain or wet with sweat, it wasn't something we were really looking to experience again. To pass the time, we reminisced over our Photo Pass ride photos and then made our way into the park.
Let's go!
Let's go!
Last day!
Thanks! First on the agenda was meeting up with our pal Mickey and then our other pal Natalie. There's nothing like a good roller coaster in the morning, at least according to Danny, so her and Nat headed straight for Tron Light Cycle Run. Since I'm a big baby, I didn't do it, but I did do the walkthrough for the first time, which was actually so cool and futuristic. We continued the roller coaster morning with Seven Dwarfs Mine Train again, and this one I did do. What can I say? I'm working on overcoming my fears. As a person who doesn't love roller coasters, I actually think this one is so fun, and the part where you go into the mine is sensational. So beautiful. We did another roller coaster, Big Thunder Mountain, and then quickly grabbed some lobster rolls from Columbia Harbor House because we were starving. With our stomachs full, it was time to finally ride Tiana's Bayou Adventure. All of the details, even just in the queue, were impeccable, and if I'm being honest, really gave me the chills because it brought back that feeling of magic, of riding something new for the first time and getting completely engrossed in the world of it all. That attention to detail and storytelling is what Disney is all about, and I really felt it on this ride. Seeing those animatronics in person was special. It's so cool to see how far the technology has come, and all of it was on display for this ride. After Tiana's, of course, we had to get some of her famous beignets. We also had a few more snack credits to use up on our dining plan before heading home that day, so we grabbed a Dole Whip to share as well as some goodies in the confectionery to take home. Thanks for joining us on our latest, slightly unusual Disney trip. We hope you had fun watching.
And today, breaking news at All-Star Movies Resort. Donations have gone missing. We don't know where they are, but a lady with black and white hair might have something to do with it. I think her name is Cruella de Vil. I heard that too. On to you, Mr. Weatherman.